there's no way. I told that guy, I said, we're going to get rid of tax public money.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking out for that when I got it marked.
I'll just delete it and I'll put no offense. My theory is if you leave it blank, they're going to wonder if anything happens.
Good morning. Let me call our meeting to order, please. Welcome to the July 17th, 2023 meeting of the Jackson County Board of Supervisors. We have a planning appeal scheduled for 10 o'clock. Let's all be mindful of that. That's a schedule we've got to keep. We'll start off with the prayer, which I will do, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. This is another election year here in Mississippi. We've got a lot of campaigning and activities going on, so I wanted to do a prayer for our local leaders. So let us pray. Father, we know that Jesus was born in a small local town, Bethlehem. He grew up under the authority of local leaders and officials who managed much of his daily life. I would like to lift up our local leaders today. We pray for our mayors, our city councils, our county supervisors, sheriffs, police chiefs, judges, and all who serve in our local community. We ask that you strengthen us with wisdom and grace for the heavy lifting and burdens that we carry. May we manage our employees and projects with love and grace. Please keep our hearts pure and our eyes toward your face as we work in the best interest of the people that we are called to serve. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next on the agenda is Miss Kim Gowdy here. I believe we're going to recognize the 4-H Kayak Club. Ms. Gowdy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Gowdy is the county coordinator for Mississippi State Extension Services. We're glad that she is here. And you want us to come down and help?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right, so see you all. We are the Jackson County 4-H Otters Kayak Club. We wanted to share with the community the accomplishments that we have done in the last 6 months. We have successfully done 18 hours of training only 4-H chartered kayak club on the coast.
Cool.
We are the second charter club in the entire state. So that's saying a lot for our 4-H youth because we've only been in operation, we've only been in club for 6 months. And we are state and now nationally recognized as a 4-H chartered kayak club. So, we want to be able to, of course, thank the Board of Supervisors for your continued support. We also would like to thank our teachers, the Pascagoula Paradise Paddlers, here, Mr. Eric and Mr. Darcy, have been such a great help for these youth. And also would like to thank the Pascagoula Parks and Rec and also Pascagoula Audubon Center, Pascagoula River Audubon Center for all their support as well. So I just wanted to let you all know that we're doing great things in Jackson County 4-H and just acknowledge our youth today. Yes, sir. The certificate says 4-H charter presented on behalf of the 4-H National Headquarters of the United States Department of Agriculture and Mississippi State University's Jackson County 4-H Paddlers Club. In recognition of its organization and agreement to meet the requirements outlined by the Cooperative Extension System, this group is authorized to use the 4-H name and emblem for educational purposes in accordance with laws and regulations established by the Congress of the United States of America, the Secretary of the United States Department of Agriculture, and the Land Grant University as of August 9, 2022.
Cool.
So thank you all again.
Thank you.
We're going to take a picture, so y'all kind of squeeze together as much as you can. So you can have a picture towards the end. You can go back over there. And then I gotta send this little one right here. Are you hiding? Are you hiding?
Thank you all so very much.
I did that the other
Mind trying. I don't know if I want to go on like a 5-mile kayak ride.
Yeah, you have to get used to that though.
Maybe like down to the back for about 100 feet.
Okay, we'll move now to item number 5 on the agenda, amendments to the agenda. Mr. Cumbus,
I don't have any.
Mr. Morris.
I don't have any.
I have none. Mr. Ross.
None.
Mr. Bosart.
None.
Mr. Eldridge.
None.
Mr. Fulton.
No.
Mr. O'Neill. None. Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Taylor, I would,
I didn't think we would get past that. Go
I
ahead.
had lunch with Mr. Evans on Friday, and I don't think he's coming back.
Oh, mercy.
I think he's enjoying retirement. I would like to add one matter under board attorney, and that is the agreement that we've discussed, the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency Disaster Assistance Repair Program Agreement. The presentation at our last meeting, and I would like to briefly discuss this agreement.
Okay, where will that be?
You can put that under wherever you want. I can discuss it whenever you want, but under board attorney would be fine. But if we want to bring it up earlier, that's perfectly fine as well.
Okay, board attorney's fine. And also, we do need to correct the amendments to the agenda, item 9, and Mr. Evans is retired. None of us caught that. That's interesting. We all miss him for sure. Okay, so we need an order approving the amendments to the agenda. Motion by Mr. Cumbus. I will second it. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll go to item number 6, general public comments. We have a very large audience today, which is super. I will remind us that we do have a hearing that we got to have at 10 o'clock. That would not disturb any public comments. If we need to keep going after that, we will. But if you want to be recognized, please come up, sign in, name, and tell us your name and address, and speak. Public comments.
Am I recognized? Okay. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
My name is Billy Broomfield. I'm here this morning to ask the Jackson County Board of Supervisors, or really to appeal to the Jackson County Board of Supervisors on behalf of your constituents to facilitate a meeting with the Jackson County Legislative Delegation for the purpose of discussing and finding a solution for the exorbitant fees that are levied by the Mississippi Windstorm Underwriting Association. Gentlemen, that association levies fees for wind and hail in excess of $3,000 to $4,000 a year. And when you factor in homeowners insurance, and when you factor in flood insurance, our people cannot afford those premiums. So therefore, I have a couple of recommendations I would like to offer this board. One would be to facilitate a meeting with the legislators to determine if they agree that we have a serious problem affecting our people, not just in Jackson County, but along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And once you've done that, then I would ask that you ask that group to facilitate a meeting with the Gulf Coast delegation of the legislature, with the chairperson of the House being John Reed and the chairperson of the Senate being Bryce Wiggins. And by doing that, gentlemen, I believe you would have a cohesive front when approaching the Mississippi legislature to talk about this issue. I submit to you that this is not a Washington problem. This is a Mississippi issue. And I also submit to you that the Mississippi Windstorm Underwriting Association is a runaway train. And the only entity that I know of that can slow that train down is the Mississippi legislature. So I'm appealing to you today to please facilitate those meetings, because our people just cannot afford the premium. They want insurance, believe me. Everybody wants to be covered, but they just can't afford those prices. Most of you know that we were affected in Moss Point by a tornado. A large number of those that were affected, they had homeowners insurance, but they couldn't afford the wind and hail insurance. And so I appreciate the opportunity to bring this issue before you. I hope that you see the merits in my request, and if there's anything I can help to do to move this process along, I certainly will be glad to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good advice, good comments, and we're with you. Thank you.
Brooklyn, thank you for your concerns for the citizens of Jackson County.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Mr. Morris, I think you're the only one that I haven't met. You got some big shoes to fill, my friend. Robert Norvell and Milton Harris was there, and I enjoyed working with them guys. We did a lot to work for your area and my area and this whole county. You got some big shoes to fill. I appreciate you being up there.
Thank you.
And Randy, you're the reason I'm here. I don't want to be here today. This is the last place I want to be. It really is, for these reasons today. But there's some things going on in this political campaign that I just had to bring note to. I'm sorry it's happening, but I got documentation to prove everything I say. So anyway, Randy, during your first term, you ran against a good friend of mine. I didn't campaign for him, but at that time, you did something that actually broke the law. But I didn't go to anybody, didn't make a scene about it. I just had it corrected. And I'll give you an example of it right here at Lake Morris Pier. It says, well, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Jackson County Board of Supervisors, Randy Bosarge. That is an illegal use of county money. I went to the board attorney at the time and said, I'm not making a big issue about this. I'm not turning it around. All I wanted to do is correct it. And sure enough, they went out and cut your name off the bottom of it, and it's a legal sign. But I didn't make a big issue of it because I want you to be a success. I want this board to be a success. Well, here we are in another campaign, and a good friend of mine, Glenn Lumpkin, I've known him for 20, 25 years. He coached one of my kids in baseball. Asked me would I support him, and I said, sure. I know you. You're a good man. He's raised an awful lot of money in charities. He's done good work. I'll support you the best way I can. And that's it. In fact, I had planned on running for supervisor against you, Randy. I really had. But my wife gave me this ultimatum. She said, I've been married to you for 53 years. If you want to make it 54, you better not run for supervisor. So I backed out. And that's the truth. So anyway, she feared dirty politics. She didn't like it the last time we ran. I don't want you in it. And dang, I'm not running for supervisor, but I'm being attacked anyway. And I've got, if anybody wants a copy of it, I've got some Facebook posts, Randy Bosarge, Supervisor of Jackson County. The first year I worked to resolve is an ordinance amended by former Supervisor John McKay. I've been out of office, what, 7 years now? And he's just now addressing this. Regarding a vicious dog ordinance, the original ordinance held that the dog, after one bite, Supervisor McKay got it changed to 2 bites for his own personal reasons. Absolute total lie. I never did that. And then he had another little post here where he says, he made this law secretly when he was supervisor for his son's benefit. He said that my sons had a dog that had bitten somebody, and I went into closed session and did this by myself. Can that happen, Troy? Can you do anything in closed session by yourself? You can't do it. That's a total lie. It didn't happen. And so, anyway, my sons at this particular time were 34, 32, and 28. We must have had hundreds of dogs. One of them lived in Florida. The other one lived out of this county, and another one's still here. But we had bunches of dogs when we were growing up. And not a single one ever bit a soul. And so that's a total lie. And I can't understand why you, a public official, would do that. I'm losing confidence in you. Because whenever you first ran, like I said, I didn't come out and say anything about you. And this time, like I said, I'm being open. I support Glenn Lumpkin because he's a fine man. But the only thing I've ever said is vote for Glenn Lumpkin for a positive change. I haven't said anything bad about Mr. Bosarge. And why you got to tell these types of lies on me, Mr. Bosarge, I don't know. And folks, I can back up everything I've got to say here because I've got the ordinances that he talks about that were changed. This is the first one. Nowhere in this ordinance, I wish the dog pound man was here, but nowhere in here does it say anything about 1 bite or 2 bites, folks. Nowhere in this original ordinance. So how could I have it changed? There was one amendment to the ordinance, and I did. And I think, Troy, you voted for it, and so did you, Barry. And what we said was we wanted to increase the fees at the animal shelter because it was having a hard time. Here's a copy of it. Read it for yourself. And that's all it says. It doesn't change anything, as Mr. Bosarge said, that I changed it from 1 bite to 2 bites. It's not in here anywhere. And then I've got a copy of the change that was the new ordinance. And I'll show you. Mr. Barlow, I've got to get it right here. Mr. Barlow had it. Anyway, it only changed two things. And basically what it says is after one bite, if you want to go to court, you can go to court. But state law already says that. I got a copy of it. State law has a one-bite ordinance where if you want to sue somebody after one bite, you can take it immediately just to court. We can't change that. So I never, ever changed one bite to two bites. It's not even mentioned in the ordinance. Am I correct, Mr. Attorney? I know you work for them guys, but I am, because we've already talked about it. So anyway, those ordinances were never, ever changed in any manner to protect my sons and the dogs that were bitten. The second thing that I've been accused of was the road that we'll be talking about sometime today. Well, back in 2005, we had Hurricane Katrina. That was still a private road. In fact, I've got a document here that says in 1976, when Bill Roberts was the actual supervisor at the particular time, that board turned it down because it was never brought up to county standards. It was platted, but it was never brought up to county standards. Mr. Bossart, can you, you're a developer, can you pave a road that is not county approved?
No.
No, you can't do it. And so I agree with you on that one. We can't do it. No matter how much I like Pam Blakeney and her husband, Doug, we played softball together 10 years. Good friends. And I wanted to help them in the worst kind of way. Well, Katrina hit in 2005. Both little bridges in there were not completely out. Fire couldn't get back there. Police couldn't back there. You couldn't get any kind of things, much less the residents that had to live back there. So I came before the board, and Joe O'Neill's in here. And he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I came before the board and I said, let's declare a state of emergency to fix those bridges, because we got to get fire back there, police back there, the people got to go to their residence, and we did. We declared a state of emergency. Joe went in there, right, Joe, and repaired both. One of them's still in good shape today. The other one's now collapsed. Randy, if you took that kind of action, you probably could have declared a state of emergency and fixed that other one up so Pam don't have to walk 200 yards to her house, because she don't want to drive across a bridge that's about 80% collapsed. You can't get a fire truck back there now. So I suggest maybe you do that and you could help.
Tried to do that, but the county attorney told me we couldn't.
Well, that's fine. If you can't do it, you can't do it. You got to follow the county attorney. At that time, it was a state of emergency. We got the problem solved.
Yeah.
So anyway, Randy, I just wish you'd lead me out of this political campaign. I'm not running for office against you. I'm not. And so I can't see why you keep attacking me with malicious lies like I've just had. And I've got proof on all of it. If anybody wants to see the proof, and just not me talking, I'm asking you, please. As my wife said, I don't like dirty campaigning. I never did that. I ran for office 4 times here, and luckily enough to serve 4 terms where you guys are. I got the greatest respect for y'all and what you do in this county, because you affect everything I do. You affect everything my grandkids do. This board has a tremendous impact on Jackson County, and you need to be honorable men and tell the truth all the time, even if it's in a political campaign. I got enough.
McKay, you're getting to the point where you're repeating yourself a little bit. If I could ask you to, okay.
Thank you. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
I wish you best of luck to this board, because you do have a lot of impact on everybody in this county and what you do, but do it in an honest, straightforward way.
Thank you very much. There are others that wanted to have public comment. Someone signing in right now, someone that's already signed in could come forward if they would like.
Yeah. Barbara Martin was next on your list.
This is Barbara.
Okay, there you go.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Barbara Martin. I live at 2301 Jim Waltman Road, Moss Point, Mississippi 39562. I'm appearing here today as a concerned taxpayer and citizen, and I want to compliment Mr. and Mrs. Witherspoon on buying a beautiful piece of property. It's going to make a great homestead, but my heart of hearts tells me what's a blessing for you could be a disaster for Jackson County, and I would just like to make a few points. In my research, I discovered that there were 4 RV parks within 17 miles of this site. I don't think we need another one. In fact, in Jackson County, there's probably along the Gulf Coast, more than 25 RV parks. Ample parking spaces for all the RVs. Secondly, I would like to say that when you consider that an RV gets their tag from the county of origin, Jackson County doesn't benefit at all from the purchase of these tags for these RVs. And
Mr. Ken, this may be relevant to the public hearing, I'm not sure.
my second point is that the...
Well, excuse me, please. If this is relevant for the public hearing we're going to have, I'm going to ask you to please sit down and come forward as part of that.
I apologize.
No problem.
That's
Okay.
We didn't know, and you didn't know.
Okay, thank you.
It's coming up at 10 o'clock, Barb.
Okay. Someone else who is signed in? I saw Mr. Tillman somewhere.
Morning to you.
Morning.
You know, listening at this attack on the board kind of upsets me. You know, there's an old saying, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. Well, 8 years ago, I'm one of the retirees from Singing River Hospital. The gentleman that just spoke was on that board. And we put out a petition to fire every one of them on that board at the time. So I know who tells the truth, who lies. And you know, it's wrong to stand up here publicly and call a man a liar when he can't self-defend himself. This board, Brother Randy, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Cumbus, Mr. Eldridge, Mr. Marsh, you wasn't here, Mr. Ross, I think y'all have done a fine job trying to help the retirees, trying to help those that have lost their 25% of their pension, lost their COLA, cost of living adjustment. That's never coming back. But y'all have been in the battle with us from the time it started back in 2014. I know we're going way back, 8 years ago. But if it's not broke, don't fix it. It was broke 8 years ago, and we tried to fix it. And we got rid of 2. And the other 3, okay, I'm almost going to be honest with you. The one sitting back here that's causing everybody a liar and campaigning on public comment time, he was the one that said, get all the lawyers out. Get all the lawyers out of this. Get all the lawyers out of this retirement. And lo and behold, they didn't have to vote on that settlement. When they voted on that settlement, that let everybody loose. That let Singing River Hospital loose. That let all the Board of Trustees loose. That let all the Board of Supervisors. They don't have to answer. Nobody had to answer for what happened to the hardworking people of the Singing River Hospital at that time. I'm not going to call any names, but he's here in this building. And I think y'all know who I'm talking about. But listen, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. I commend this board for what they've done and stood up for us. I commend this board for what they're doing now with the sale of that hospital. I'm so glad that the county is getting out of the hospital business. And I thank y'all, and I praise y'all for y'all's job.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yep.
It is wrong, excuse me, Mr. Taylor, but it is wrong to get up here and call a man a liar when he cannot defend himself publicly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who else has signed up? Go ahead and give us a name from the list, if you will, and we'll...
That's it.
That's it?
That's all.
Okay, last call then for public comments. Okay, we'll move then to item number 7, the consent agenda. Motion by Mr. Cumbus, seconded by Mr. Morris. Is there any discussion on the amended? Well, I guess the consent agenda is not amended, but any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, motion carries. We will move to item number 8, department heads. Mr. Elmore, let me ask if we can get Miss Mary Martha Henson to come forward for one moment, please. We're going to be looking at some tax situations here from Mr. Elmore, and quite a few of them. And I just want to emphasize the fact that the Economic Development Commission Foundation is a very significant part of this, and they do a whole lot of good work. George is out of town. Miss Mary Martha was going to come and speak just a moment on the benefits here, if you would, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Good morning. And as Mr. Taylor said, we're going to take up some tax exemption policies, or requests rather, this morning. As you all know, we've worked with Brian and Nick over the last couple of years to make sure this policy strikes a good balance. We have a good business environment here in Jackson County, but we also really consider the things that matter. Executive leadership living here in the county, not out of state, retaining employees here in Jackson County, and if we can't retain them all here in Jackson County, at least along the Gulf Coast. This has been a priority the last 4 years of this board, and so we believe these tax exemption requests, the majority of them meet the criteria. And again, thank you for working with us to make it Jackson County a competitive community, because it's very important. As we often say, we're not just competing with our sister counties. We're not just competing with our sister neighbor states. This is a global competition. And so what you do with us in economic development makes us more competitive. Mr. Taylor, I'm happy to answer any questions about each of these individually. I think Nick's going to take them up one by one, but if not, I'll turn it over to Nick.
Okay, appreciate your comments. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Elmore.
All right, good morning, gentlemen. So we've got a few requests from companies here. The first one on the list is from Bollinger, Mississippi Shipbuilding. They have an $11.6 million request. The only note that I will make is that $11.3 million of that was reimbursed by the MDA Industry Incentives Fund grant.
Okay,
So
let
that's
me
your first
jump
one.
into that one, please. I would like to make a motion that we deny this resolution. There are some issues with the request that the Economic Development Foundation has, and I think we need to get those resolved before we take action. So I'd like to make a motion. We reject this one?
Yeah, and I'll second it.
And we got a second by Mr. Cumbest. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, sir.
All right, thank you. The second request we have on the list is from Huntington Ingalls, $10 million exemption request in value.
Okay, we need a motion, second, and a second. Motion by Mr. Cumbest. Need a second by Mr. Ross. Any discussion on Huntington Ingalls? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. The third request is from OleoX Renewable Energy. This is the new company that took over First Chemicals facility out there. So.
Okay. Seconded first, motion by Mr. Bossard, seconded by Mr. Cumbest. Is there any discussion on OleoX? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
All right, the next company's request is Respirotech. This is actually Respirotech and Jerry Hodges Properties. It's all together. They have made, it's like an $839,000 investment.
I'll make that motion also.
Motion by Mr. Bossard, seconded by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
The next request is from Superior Optical Labs, $5 million investment. Company continues to invest in Jackson County.
I'll make that motion also.
Motion by Mr. Bossarge. I will second it, and I will comment that Superior Optical Labs, they provide virtually all glasses for veterans.
All right, the next company's
We
request.
did not vote? We did not vote.
I'm sorry. Getting ahead of you. Forgive me.
All in favor for Superior Optical, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
And I'd like to add one thing to that Superior Optical. So Mary Martha and I had a meeting with them several years ago, and the new owners were from Tampa, and they were considering moving that business to Tampa. And Mary Martha and I and a couple of other economic development people were able to convince them to stay here and turn around and invest over $10 million into the Sunplex Light Industrial Park. So Mary Martha, I'd like to thank you for helping us do that for sure. And but that's just, they've got some more expansions that are going to be coming, and they've done a great job so far. So thank you.
All right, the next request is Warren Paving. This is their new facility out on Highway 63.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cumbest, seconded by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
And the last request was from Oleo X for a Freeport warehouse exemption. We're recommending that you actually deny this. Nothing is wrong with it. They're just premature in that. They're a year ahead. They'll apply for this next year.
So this would be next year?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll make the motion. We deny that one. Need a second? Mr. Cumbest seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Mary Martha, you did a fine job. George is out of town today, or he would have been here also, and we just congratulate the Economic Development Foundation for doing a super job for the county and the state, really. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the partnership. We can do it without you.
Okay, still within department heads, the board attorney, this is correctly stated to be Mr. Jimmy Calmer.
Yes, sir. Mr. Taylor, let me bring up the easiest one first, and that is the state of emergency that was declared as a result of the tornado striking Moss Point. We are still under that state of emergency, and by law, we have to review that and determine whether we want to continue that state of emergency. After which it will be, if you do that, it'll be reviewed again in 30 days.
Okay. We need a motion?
Motion.
So
I've got a resolution if the board sees fit to continue that state of emergency.
Sure, go ahead, sure.
Yeah. Resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Jackson County, Mississippi, continuing local state of emergency from Moss Point, Mississippi tornado.
So moved.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Morris, seconded by Mr. Cumbest. Is there any discussion on the local state of emergency? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Next thing, Mr. Taylor, is the kind of continuation briefly of the discussion in the presentation we had at the last meeting about the damage to Moss Point and availability of some funds from the state. We had a meeting Friday to discuss that. The only item that I need is, and I believe we approved this last meeting, but I'd like to clearly approve it this meeting because it was not yet signed, is the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency Disaster Assistance Repair Program Agreement. We do have an agreement from the state, and Mr. Taylor, we discussed this on Friday. This agreement in and of itself is fine. There are other parts to make this disaster money available for materials for the residents who have suffered damages. It's I say a little bit of a complicated program, but not complicated to those that deal with it all the time. But if we could approve this agreement with MEMA, and then I'll have one more comment after that. So I will get an order prepared if the board sees fit to approve this agreement.
Okay, tell us again what the agreement provides.
This is a Mississippi Emergency Management Agency Disaster Assistance Repair Program Agreement between MEMA and Jackson County.
And this is the $250,000 in MEMA funding that can be used to purchase materials to repair the homes that qualify as part of the Moss Point disaster. This really starts the ball rolling. We will need to get an MOU in place with the 501c3 that will be helping us manage the program. And that can come at our next meeting if we get a MOU that's acceptable to legal and to everyone.
Okay, I apologize. I am confused because I thought we were on item B, which was the road and bridges issue in Marsh Islands.
He jumped to
Mr.
C.
I guess I went a little bit out of order trying to get the easier ones done.
Oh, okay.
Easier ones done first.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry.
And this was the meeting we went to Friday?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm good. Okay, and you have a resolution?
Well, I have the agreement, and if the board approves it, I'll prepare an order when I get back to the office.
Okay. Okay.
Agreement? Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Morris, seconded by Mr. Cumbus to approve that agreement. And all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
The only other thing, Mr. Taylor, on that, as we know from our meeting Friday, Mr. Fulton mentioned there will be an MOU that we'll have to review and get approved. There is a committee that has been formed to kind of run this program. The only thing, without stepping on into Mr. Fulton's territory, is who within the county is going to manage that. I don't know if we want to discuss that now or discuss that later, but somebody within the county is going to need to make sure that everything is done properly.
Right.
And the agreement contemplates that it would be done through emergency operations or EMA. And, although we have some staff that can help with pieces and parts of it, we do think that it would be most appropriate for that department to handle the program.
Right, and we did discuss that on Friday, and there's further discussion that's got to be had there. There was an alternative that the Board of Supervisors could do it. Maybe a stretch, maybe do some here and do some there, but that's to be resolved. Okay, and we're voting on what right now?
No, I'm just bringing that to the board's attention, and if that we will need someone within the county to handle our responsibilities, Jackson County's responsibilities with regard to this program. And that's just, and I bring that up just because I want to make sure from a legal standpoint that we do what we need to do and do it correctly.
Correct. Okay. Thank you, sir. And now?
Okay, Mr. Taylor, the last item on my agenda, if you can bear with me for about 5 minutes, I'm going to try to discuss an issue that's been ongoing for quite some time. At the last meeting, the board requested that I take a look at this issue regarding what's kind of commonly known, I guess, as Marsh Island subdivision. And Ms. Blakeney spoke before the board at our last meeting with some concerns. I met with her last Thursday, did not reach any type of agreement or resolution, but I would like to spell out for the board because this has been a long, ongoing issue, and spell out for the board what my review of the file and the facts show. The question, I guess, ultimately comes down to whether or not one of these roads in this subdivision is a public road, and/or whether or not the county can invest taxpayer dollars to repair this road or these roads or parts of these roads. This has actually been looked at by Ms. Yancey, board attorney, by Mr. Evans, subsequent board attorney, and now I have looked at it. This goes back to 1974 timeframe. There was a plat that was prepared, a couple of plats for Marsh Island subdivision. 2 plats and maybe 4 parts to those 2 plats. These plats were filed in Chancery Clerk's office. They were actually approved by the Planning Commission, but back in 1976, this board declined to accept the dedication of this land, the roads contained therein or laid out therein, and the public right-of-ways. So this board has never, since 1976, approved or accepted the dedication of this plat that was filed back in March of 1976. Ms. Blakeney purchased a lot in February 1995, about 20 years later. She purchased a lot number 35, within this Marsh Islands subdivision. And when she purchased the lot, as I just mentioned, this plat had never been accepted or approved by the board, even to this day. In March 2004, there was a petition that was prepared by some landowners in that area requesting the acceptance of what they called Banana Island Road, which is, I'm not intimately familiar with all the roads, but that is a road out in that area. These citizens, including Ms. Blakeney, requested that the board accept this road as a public road. On the petition, this road was designated as a private road, and Mr. O'Neill and the road department estimated it was going to cost $100,000+ at that time to repair a couple of the bridges and do some other work on the road. The Board of Supervisors determined in a 4-to-1 vote that it was not in the best interest of the citizens to accept this road as a public road and denied that petition. In September of 2005, roughly a year later, Hurricane Katrina hit, and the county was under a state of emergency. The board at that time again noted that this was a private road, but agreed to make some emergency repairs for access to the back part, I guess, of the subdivision. But it was clear from that emergency order that this was a private road, and so that was all that was ever done that I can tell from early 70s or mid 70s up until today to put any public money into the road or the bridges in Marsh Island subdivision. There was a lawsuit that was filed in Jackson County Chancery Court by the owners of the subdivision to vacate the 2 plats that were filed. This was in October or the 2006 timeframe. The Board of Supervisors, the county, did not take a position in that lawsuit. The lawsuit was the private landowners that own the land versus the 2 or 3 people that own lots and anybody else that had an interest in that land. The judge at the time, Judge Randy Pierce, who was a chancellor at the time, vacated the plats, basically erased all the lines on those 2 plats. the owners of the property still own the property, it just did not have the plat lines on it. The only exception was that Judge Pierce ordered the Marsh Island Drive to remain open. The reason he put that in there was because Ms. Blakeney and the other landowners had obtained an easement by prescription. Over the years going to and from their property, they had basically obtained the legal right to get to their property via this Marsh Island Road. So Judge Pierce required that road to remain open, ordering the private landowners to keep that road open so she could have ingress and egress to her property. But the roads, Judge Pierce in his order found that, as I read that order clearly, found that this was private property and private roads, and the roads returned to the ownership of the private individuals. So it kind of brings us here today. I sympathize with Ms. Blakeney's problem. She owns property kind of on the backside, I guess, of Marsh Island subdivision, and she does have a legal right by prescription, as reiterated by Judge Pierce, that she has a right for ingress and egress to her property. It may not be a very smooth ride, and maybe some problems with the bridges, but she has access to her property. It's my opinion that since the early 70s, and probably before that, but that's where I started, this property, including the roads, have always been private property. That this board, unfortunately, does not have the legal authority to spend taxpayer dollars to improve the roads or improve the bridges. You just can't do that. That is clear. You'd be subject to having to repay that money out of your own pocket if you put money into those roads or to those bridges. And that's the way it's been. Ms. Blakeney disagrees, but this has been going on for quite some time. That road right now, I talked to Mr. Elmore and I pulled it up on the land records. That road itself is a separate parcel now, privately owned and taxed. So it's just not something that you can put any money in. Basically, there's three ways for a road to become a public road in Mississippi: by prescription. That does not apply in this case. By the statutory method that was attempted by some landowners back in 2004, that was denied, or by dedication, and that was denied by the Board of Supervisors. There is something called common law dedication that is the law in Mississippi. I don't think that the facts of this case allow for common law dedication by this board to even apply. So as much as I understand and sympathize with her position, Mr. Taylor, I don't see, I agree with Mr. Evans, I agree with Ms. Yancey, that this is a private road. It's always been a private road, and it's just against the law to put any public taxpayer money into this road or to the bridges.
Okay, very comprehensive, good report. I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Blakeney has the right, per the Chancery Judge, to go to and back and forth for her property.
Yes, sir.
With that authority, is there any requirement on the owner to make that road and bridge viable, which it is not today?
Not that I know of offhand. You know, her prescriptive right to do that would be the same as any of us that own land where we were kind of landlocked. You could say her property's kind of landlocked. We would have the right to go over somebody else's land to get to our property. That's the right that she has. I don't know of any authority, but if she had a right to do so, she would have to enforce that as against the landowners.
Right.
Landowners. Maybe it's a shame that subdivision did not develop. I know it was planned to be developed. I understand that back when the board denied the dedication or the acceptance of the plat, it was for a number of reasons, including the fact that the roads did not meet county standards. And had the board approved that back in the day, in the 70s, there would have been a lot of money that would have been put into that to bring it up to county standards. I have seen a picture, and it looks almost like kind of like a dirt road. Y'all may have been out there. I have not. It's just a tough situation, but the law is very clear to me.
Who owns it? Who actually owns it?
Well, it's been foreclosed on in 2020, I believe. I understand, and maybe Mr. Elmore, if he's here, can help me, but I understand that some of it is owned by some folks that may be local, that may be looking to try to do something with that property. And one more thing that I may mention, because this came up in my meeting with Ms. Blakeney, there was a question about some activity going on out there. And I did meet with Marcus, and I did discuss it with him, and apparently whatever activity is going on out there is not activity that requires a permit. The owners may be cutting some trees, clearing some area a little bit, but does not require a county permit to do whatever they may be doing out there.
Okay, thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with Ms. and explain that to her. Is there any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, we will move on. I would like to congratulate everyone. We're 4 minutes away from 10 o'clock.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Regarding what?
He mentioned the common law briefly, but he didn't go into it at all. Can you just take a couple of seconds and go over that common law, how it does not apply to that situation?
Up to you.
Common law dedication is probably something that would have to be resolved by a court, depending on the facts. It's basically where a road has been treated as a public road. There was a case that you may be familiar with. It came out of Jackson County, where Judge Bradley agreed with the plaintiffs. It was appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court reversed and said that common law dedication did apply in that case. But the facts of that case, if you're familiar with it, have a good legal principle, but the facts were different than the facts here, and that's why that case, for its legal principle, is good, controlling law, but not necessarily applicable to this. But a common law dedication is basically, and without getting into too much detail and getting away from myself here, is where, well, a public dedication, had the board accepted it, is basically the board accepting that grant of those roads, explicitly accepting the grant of those roads on its minutes. Common law dedication comes about when the board does not accept it, but because of actions that have occurred over the years, and it's treated as a public road and used as a public road, and some other factors that go into that, it's kind of what's called common law dedication. You don't see it too much, but in that past case involving Jackson County that Judge Bradley presided over, the Supreme Court found that common law dedication did apply.
Okay, but this is completely different.
This is different because in that case there was a platted subdivision that was accepted by the Board of Supervisors. They did accept the plat, they did accept the roads within that plat, but there was only one entrance to that subdivision. And so, and get into a little bit of detail, there was a letter from the Planning Commission trying to seek some funds, some emergency funds after a hurricane, I believe, that said we had maintained that road over the dam going to this platted subdivision. And based on the totality of the circumstances, the Supreme Court said, well, this is common law dedication because we've got a letter from the Planning Commission saying that we've maintained this road over the years, and some other factors that came into it, so they found a common law dedication. That is not something that one person may agree, one person may disagree as to those, whether or not there's enough facts to come up with a common law dedication.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
And that would probably be determined by a judge.
Absolutely, and that's right, absolutely.
Okay, well, I think this discussion was worth having. Everyone understands. I hope Ms. Blakely understands, which it sounds like she doesn't, but
I have a court order here that you guys told me to come up front. And the reason I have been.
I'm sorry, Ms. Blakely, we've got to move along. It's 10 o'clock, and we.
I cannot agree with anything that this gentleman.
Ma'am, you had your opportunity during public comments to comment, and you're welcome to come back to the next meeting and comment again if you so choose. But we have a scheduled hearing that we're going to do right now. It is Jackson County Planning Department appealed hearing, Demetrius and Louise Witherspoon. The time is now. Marcus, can you take this over, please? Big crowd here, and I think there's a lot of interest in this. And please let me caution, do not over each other. Be recognized before you speak. All of this has got to be recorded, and it's just extremely difficult to do if we are talking over each other. Thank you.
Good morning. Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On May the 17th, the Planning Commission heard the application SBEC 04-2023-00062 for Demetrius and Louise Witherspoon for a special exception to allow construction and operation of an RV resort that would include 300 to 400 RV sites, boat and RV storage, a clubhouse, pool area with lazy river cottages, and a coffee shop, and also a restaurant. This property is zoned A1, general agriculture. It's approximately 82 acres in size. It's not located in a special flood hazard area and was previously used as a sand pit. The applicant commented the hours of operation would be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with around 50 employees, 24/7 security. Some acreage would be for farming, and the water and sewer was yet to be determined with some septic already in place. Of course, we received numerous cards of opposition to the development along with several petitions. The Planning Commission voted 5-2 to deny the application. The basis was they didn't feel that the development would be in harmony with the intent of the ordinance and could be injurious to the neighborhood. I believe Mr. and Mrs. Witherspoon are here to represent this application.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Kiara Tate. I'm here on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Witherspoon, who are both here today. Thank you for listening to us this morning. We are here to appeal the Planning Commission's decision to deny that special exception application. We believe that the Planning Commission erred in making this decision, giving in to public pressure, which was largely based on misinformation and potential racial animus from commentators, many of whom do not live in the actual affected area. So the first error that we ascribed was that several of the commissioners commented that their decision was based on the size of the crowd, which attended the hearing in opposition to my client's application. However, it was unclear how many of those giving public comment were residents of the affected area. We believe that the commission should have determined how many of the commentators were actual residents of that area before making a decision. We noted that many of the addresses given were clearly outside the 500-foot range from the subject property, and you can see that, which was attached to Exhibit A with the petition. There were many signatures on the petition from people who do not even reside in the Helena area. Clearly, the commission was persuaded by the undue influence of individuals who are not likely to be affected by my client's intended use of the property for the purposes outlined in the application. We have attached maps to the appeal letter, noting the distance from my client's property to the properties of those who signed the petition and spoke at the hearing. We have also attached Facebook posts, and that should be Exhibit C, from one of the main opponents who stated that the place would become a ghetto. Mr. Williams also, I think it's Mr. Roger Williams there on that Facebook post. He also stated that a picture which merely shows my client Demetrius Witherspoon posing with an employee, he said that that picture speaks 1,000 words. These Facebook posts have led us to believe that some of, not all of, but some of the public outrage over the plans may have been focused more on racial prejudices and stereotypes than sincere concerns about safety and the environment. The second error that we ascribe to the decision is that the commission should have postponed its vote on the application until the commission could ascertain the legitimacy of the opposition's concerns. Many of the public commentators told the commission that there were blind spots in the roads that led to the subject property of my client's application. They said that the roads were not wide enough to accommodate recreational vehicles and that the resort would completely change their way of life due to noise pollution and bright lighting. However, the roads are big enough to accommodate commercial vehicles, such as 18-wheelers. My client actually drives an 18-wheeler. He's driven down that road in his own 18-wheeler truck. And I myself have driven down Lily Orchard Road, and I passed several commercial vehicles, big trucks that were coming down that way. And then also Mr. Fella Williams, whom my client purchased the property from, actually used commercial vehicles in and out of that property because he sold sand to the county actually at that time. Sorry, give me just a second. Third, we assert that the commission erred in choosing to deny the application rather than approving it with recommendations for the Board of Supervisors to consider. When making his motion, Commissioner Eldred stated that the infrastructure is not there, even though they say they're going to meet with people on the sewer issue. And that's on page 58, lines 13 through 17 of the transcript. Commissioner Eldridge also stated that the road widths are not adequate to accommodate an operation of this size, which is huge, 10 times bigger than the one that exists down there. And I believe at that point, Commissioner Eldridge was speaking about another RV park that's in the Helena area. These reasons should not have been fatal to the application. First, because the commission could have easily recommended that the Board of Supervisors approve the special exception under the conditions that access to a sewer system is required and that the number of units be reduced to a lower number. Mr. Catchett explained that this commission and the public, Mr. Catchett explained this to the commission and to the public by responding to Commissioner Dr. Knight's question regarding whether the number of RVs would actually be reduced to 150 or 200 units by stating the following. Actually, more than likely, once he puts the roads in there, the correct size roads and the turnarounds and whatever would be required, that would have to shrink, you know. And also when Mr. Catchett stated that if it got to the point where the board wanted to make some recommendation, I would add that the recommendation, if it was approved, that they would have to have sewer. So we believe that the commission should have made recommendations based on their voiced concerns rather than vote to deny the application. Finally, there are several other RV parks in Jackson County which have been approved to operate in residential areas, since the disturbance to the neighborhood is a concern that was brought up by public commentators and at least one commissioner. First, there is Riverside RV Park, which was discussed during the hearing. It is in the same area and attracts the same types of RVs that would travel to my client's resort. Those vehicles drive those same roads and they pass through the same homes of those who claim that they would be so negatively affected by this development. So simply put, this has been done before and it seems to work. We believe the commission erred in failing to consider the county's approval of other similar parks and resorts. And my clients are also willing to answer any questions that the board may have at this time.
Okay, good morning, board. Good morning. I think my attorney put it pretty much as I see it. I'm willing to take any questions. This project, as I stated before with the Planning Commission, with all due respect to this site plan, is not actually official. It's actually over. But I cannot develop a correct site plan until we get the utilities in there so we can know exactly where to place these vehicles. The numbers, we agreed to come down with those if we have to. Anything that'll meet the county's recommendations or requirements for as a RV park. Going into just a little bit of what my attorney was saying, the lighting, I had some complaints about lighting. The county requires certain lighting for RV parks. It's in your statutes. And we agreed that, you know, whatever we have to put out there, it would be ambient lighting. And I think some of them got it mixed up. We're not putting, as you say, field lighting that you would see on a soccer field, but ambient lighting, recessed lighting to highlight the landscape in which we're going to add more. Some was worried about the beauty of the neighborhood. There's a beautiful lake out there if anybody's familiar with this property. We've even decided to let the front property facing Lily Orchard on the lake not even be used for recreational vehicles, but yet look more residential, you know, beautiful homes that we can rent out as cottages to face that area. So basically just building a, as you would say, a buffer of landscaping to kind of hide where these RVs would be, stuff of that nature. But this is really coming to improve the neighborhood, nothing to degrade it. My wife and I purchased this property because when we researched Jackson County, we saw that they were doing great with economic development. You know, we do own other businesses in Pike County, Mississippi, you know, and we're doing great there, but we just saw this opportunity here and was like, hey, this is perfect, you know. And not only is this just us buying a piece of property to dump on Jackson County and the residents, we're building our home there. So this is not going to be something where we just brought a business and we're not there. We're going to be members of that community as well. So we want to get the approval of those that are near us. Now, we have spoke to some since the last meeting, and they did tell us they were misled by this petition. They didn't know what was actually happening. And when they came, they must have heard the truth about what we were going to do, and some actually did change their mind. We do have the approval of some that are right there in the neighborhood, you know, and it's not many. If you really look at maybe 12 homes between Saracena and Lily Orchard to get to my property right there. But regarding the utilities, we did meet with Mr. Eric Page. I did meet with Mr. Chase Glisson. They're willing to service out there. And we're coming up with some plans through DEQ, some grants that we heard that they were able to do for another RV park that's in Jackson County. And if we can get those things approved, then we'll be able to service better utilities out there, you know. But if that does in all case fail, we're willing to invest in what it would take to build our own power supply if we have to go that route, worst case scenario for us. But we are looking into some things so we can get the proper design because of the sewage and water out there. So I don't think I did anything, babe. Okay, well, anything else I need to tap on? I think I hit it on the head. Well, I'm at the mercy of you guys to try to get this thing going. I pray that we can get this and start back, you know, to bring something here to that area that's going to be really nice and significant for the community.
Okay, any questions from anyone thus far?
Okay.
So let's ask anyone who would like to speak. Which should go first, Marcus? The for the development. Okay. Anyone who would like to speak for the development itself, and that means granting a special exception to allow this RV park, please come forward. Identify yourself by name, address, and then give us your comments.
Doesn't look like there's anybody for it, so anyone who's against it.
Okay. No one is for granting the special exception here today. Are there people that would like to speak against allowing the special exception? If you are here and you would like to comment, please come forward. And I believe we had a Miss Barbara Martin earlier.
I apologize for the confusion.
Well, you had a rehearsal. There you go.
Barbara Martin, 2301 Jim Waltman Road, Moss Point, Mississippi, 39562. I'm here as a concerned taxpayer, and for clarity and transparency, I'm also a member of Lily Orchard Baptist Church. My concern Well, first I want to compliment, and I think I did before, on the purchase of that property. It's a unique, beautiful piece of property, will make a wonderful home site. But what is a blessing for the Witherspoons, I feel like might be a disaster for Jackson County. In the little bit of research that I did, I found that there were 4 RV parks within 17 miles of this location. Over the Mississippi Gulf Coast, I'm sure there's more than 25 RV parks, and I think that's sufficient. My second concern is that the tax value to the taxpayers of Jackson County, those RV coming into that site will probably have paid a tag to the county of origin. Jackson County will not benefit from that at all. Secondly, the seller will pay taxes just on the land itself, and there's very little tax associated with the infrastructure. I feel like Jackson County would be burdened with providing fire and protection and services to this RV park without benefiting very much from tax value. As an example, there's an RV park in Jackson County, not too far from this location, on 5 acres, and I think they have probably in excess of 50 RV spaces, and they pay $4,000 in taxes. That hardly covers fire protection and services provided to this. And I didn't see on their plan any provision for utilities or the infrastructure for the water and sewer. And I'm afraid that that would just be too much of a burden for Jackson County. And I thank you for being so patient with me, and God bless.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Peggy Linton. My address is 11655 Lily Orchard Road. I'm directly across the street. I just bought our property 9 months ago, and this is a sad day to hear that this might be coming in. I moved to the country, and if you've been down my road, Lily Orchard, this past week with all the rain, we have major flooding on those roads. I agree that he might have drove his 18-wheeler down there, but he has a commercial license. All these RVs don't have it. You cannot pass on that road without getting off on the shoulder when you're passing a big truck. That road is not wide enough for these big RVs. And I would love to be able to keep our quiet little community quiet again, because that's not going to be that way anymore if this is across the street from me. I appreciate it if y'all would reconsider this and not let this happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Danny Joe Wildman II. I live at 13137 Lily Orchard Road, which is roughly 2.5 miles north of where this proposal is. Pretty much grew up there all my life. My mother and father lived next door to me. And, you know, if you had put a whole plan together and presented it in front of the Planning Commission, then maybe there'd be some better understanding about exactly what was intended here. Repeatedly, the Planning Commission asked for a reduction in the number of 300 to 400, and the response was no. To that, it was wanted to stay at 300 or 400 is what was stated in that meeting, because I was at that meeting as well. As far as the racial motivated comments that were said, I take offense to that myself. Not at all. The reason, I've lived on that road, like I said, all my life. The trash trucks I have seen in the ditches. You take RVs passing each other, they're going to go into those ditches. The easement on Lily Orchard Road is 40 foot from one end to the other. There's not city or county sewer or water on that road, which means this board is going to have to put that in order to support this. And I don't see the revenue from this type of investment from the county to see where you're going to see a return on that, how those taxes would be returned to us, or as a tax-paying citizen, I just don't see the return on it. So I do think it's a beautiful piece of property, and more than welcome Mr. Witherspoon and them to come into the community and having that kind of relationship. That's not a problem at all. I welcome them to go to church, even if they want to come to Lily Orchard. That's where I attend as well. So some of those petition signers may be outside of Lily Orchard, but there are people that travel from different areas that come to Lily Orchard Baptist Church because it's a growing church. So that's really all I've got to say, and I appreciate your support and continuing to deny what this community really does not want in that area.
Thank you. Others? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Margie Rico. I live at 11610 Lily Orchard Road. The proposed RV park would be bordering two sides of my property, one side and behind it. And my main thing is I've lived there for over 20 years. I like living out in the country where it's nice and quiet, and I just don't want a bunch of traffic and noise and, you know, people around. I just, just prefer to be out by myself, and that's my main concern. That would y'all consider that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not the greatest public speaker, but my name is Christopher Yauch. I live on 9300 Dudden Lane.
Name and address, please.
Yauch, Y-A-U-C-H. And I get that's outside the 500-foot radius, but I travel that road daily. That's the only way I get into town to go to work. In addition to that, I'm coming to you as an RVer who pulls a 42-foot heavy fifth wheel. 14,000 pounds. I can assure you, there is no way in heck two semis are passing each other or two garbage trucks are passing each other on that road. I don't know if you guys have been out to the area and have seen this road. It is uneven, it's windy, and there's mailboxes right up against it. So I don't know where they got that from, but it's not possible. And the gentleman before me mentioned something about the garbage trucks. Yes, I have seen them off in the ditch, and you essentially have to come to a complete stop. Now, when you're pulling a fifth wheel and you hang your tires off on the right-hand side of the road, you know, there's times I've been nervous that it's going to flip over. So I have that concern. And as a taxpayer, I have no offense to building an RV park there. I looked at that several years ago when you first put it up for sale, because I was like, that is a great place to put an RV park. But there are some serious challenges to it with the drainage. If anybody went there last week, no less than 7 places, there's 3 to 4 inches running over the road at a steady pace. So pulling a fifth wheel, pulling a big bus, no problem. But if I'm an RV pulling a toad, quite possible that's going off onto the side of the road and flipping the RV over. Greenfield floods, and after Katrina, we all know that we couldn't get in and out for frickin' days because of what? The trees were down, power lines were down, and the flooding, both up at Nutbank and then down at Greenfield. So and then there was north of us, we couldn't go north up to the Chevron on 613 because there was flooding up there. So we were essentially locked in for a week. I, as a taxpayer, don't want to pay for that. The roads are horrible. The drainage is horrible. When I built my house, I had to have 3 sprinklers for my 3-bedroom house or 4-bedroom house for my sewer system. I don't know what's it going to take for 150, I think we were talking about? 400 RVs, where's the water going to come from? The closest fire station that I'm aware of is in 613 by Piggly Wiggly. I think Moss Point, I don't know if that's closer, but, and I understand there's a firehouse on Nutbank, but that's volunteer fire department. I don't even know if that's still operational. Of course, I know Hurley's manned, but they only have a dispatcher from what I understand. So the response time, you know, I'm concerned about that. Jackson County Sheriff's Department, their closest substation is in Hurley. No offense to anybody that works for the county,
Don't arrest me, please. But I can call that number right now, and nobody's gonna answer. I have to call here, either non-emergency or 911. So I have concerns about all that, and if all that could be addressed, I'm open to the idea. I take serious offense when the first thing out of the spokeswoman's mouth was racial. Served this country for 26 years. I don't have a racist bone in my body. I have common sense. And while I think you should build your park, oh, I'm sorry, and you should have your prosper and do whatever you need to do, I think those things need to be looked at before any decisions are made and how it's gonna affect everybody, not just in the 500-foot area, but up and down that road. There's only 3 ways out of there: south on Greenfield, Nutbank, or north on 613 for a lot of us. And so those are my concerns are coming from. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else speak against?
My name is Denise Sanders. I live at 7741 Greenfields Road, Moss Point. To say that 500 feet is the only people that are going to be affected by this, I don't think that's a fair assessment by anyone. I live at the corner of Greenfields Road and Lily Orchard, one of those areas we were talking about that floods so badly. Anyway, long story short, with all the traffic coming around there, if you get to that corner, number one, it's a blind corner. If you're coming from Lily Orchard to take a turn onto Greenfields Road that takes you to Saracena, that's a blind turn. You've got to get out a little bit so you can see, make sure nobody's coming. People run that stop sign all the time. So I hate to say it, but that happens regularly. My son has been run off the road by trucks. I have been almost run off the road by a trash truck on Greenfields Road. It's another one of those winding roads, very narrow. There's no way you could get 2 RVs at the same time going. If you're talking 300 to 400 RVs, there's not going to be a time when you're going to have 2 RVs passing one another. And my brother's an 18-wheeler driver. He can drive 100 times better than I could on something big like that. Could I do it? No. I have an RV. I can pull it. A lot of people do without a lot of practice. I try not to. But if I'm having to pull something, I would freak out if I even saw a car coming towards me, period. But a lot of these people pulling these RVs do not have the experience and such that an 18-wheeler driver would have. Most don't. So I think it's a safety issue of vehicles going back and forth. Yes, we do have the problems with the sewer, the water, the drainage, all that. For me, it's the safety. And I live right there at the corner. I come out of my driveway and have to watch out because even though they're supposed to stop, they don't stop, and I've almost been hit multiple times just coming out of my driveway. So safety is my biggest issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Yes.
My name is John Cresswell. I live at 8509 Greenfields Road. Gentlemen, that would be plus or minus about a mile and mile. I'm not going to regurgitate everything that's been said. I would just appeal to you to not approve this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Roman Weiss. I live at 9721 Franks Road in Helena. My family has been residents of Helena since Helena was Helena, well over 200 years. I don't live within 500 feet of this property. I've known Feller and Miss Sheila all my life, friends with them. Stop and visit with Feller all the time. I sat in my chair last night thinking about this, trying to decide what I was going to say, and everybody has brought up good points about why. I really don't even want to address it, but the comments that were made, everybody in this room in 2023 should find offensive about the racism.
I will say that my oldest friend that is not kin to me is a black man that I've known since I was 3 years old. He drove a truck for my daddy in the late 70s. I rode the dump truck with him when I was big enough to wipe my own behind. So take that somewhere else, okay? But now that I've said that, I want to say this. There's a problem in this country, and this is going to go around, but I'm coming back to something. I doubt any of you ever make it to Washington, but yet it starts here with local government doing what local people wish. We can say that this RV park is going to benefit Jackson County because it's going to bring jobs. You, the Board of Supervisors, and I can remember my daddy and my grandpa talking years ago about Mr. Eddie Cott and this one and that one, talking to Mr. Stennis in Washington every week. I know y'all remember the stories. If you paid attention, you remember. When Jackson County was booming, the jobs that need to be brought back to Jackson County is industrial jobs. Where'd Mississippi Phosphate go? Where'd the paper mill go? The Moss Point, Halter and Moss Point, gone. Vicol, Mississippi Phosphate. I can just go on and on about jobs that paid college tuition, that paid mortgages, retirement. People raise families. Now, they're going to hire some folks to run their RV park if they get it. But we're talking about people that's handing out hot dogs. We're talking about lifeguards and people riding around on golf carts picking up garbage. Now, how many homes is that going to pay for? How many college children is that going to put through college? Y'all's job is to look out for Jackson County, bring industry and jobs to this county. The tourism dollar is a fool's errand, in my opinion. They got that in Harrison County. They got that in Destin. They got that in Orange Beach. If somebody comes here in an RV park, are they going to come here, park the RV, and then drive 30 or 40 miles one way or the other to go to the tourist attractions? No. That's not going to happen. Bear with me. Finally, I come back to what I started at. Y'all represent the people of Jackson County. I got 3 cards right here. Them little green and white cards that y'all pass out the first of the year. About $3,200 worth of land taxes I got to pay. The tag on my wife's pickup, because I keep her in a decent vehicle, is about $700 a year. Now, I drive a 28-year-old pickup. It's $75 a year. I just paid my mortgage off 15 years. I booked a $1,200 house note on my property. I paid it. It's paid off. It belongs to me and y'all. Because if I don't pay my land taxes in 3 years, y'all going to take it from me. So in essence, I bought it from the bank and I'm going to rent it from Jackson County for the rest of my life. Nothing against these Witherspoons. Nice people. They seem like real nice people. And if they want to come and live life the way we live life in Helena, because for lack of a better term, Helena is the stepchild of Jackson County, okay? It floods in Helena. Everybody knows it. The roads is bad in Helena. Everybody knows it. But the one thing that Helena is quiet. And we like it like that. If having to drive through water when the road floods, and Coda Road floods constantly, anybody that's ever been down Coda, and nobody's complaining about that. It is what it is. You know, we can't raise Jackson County up. It is what it is. It's always been like that. Helena's always been low ground, you know. But that's kind of our saving grace if you think about it. It keeps us a quiet community because of that. And we want to keep it that way. Now you take in a 400-unit RV park, little arithmetic, half of the RVs that's going to get towed in there is going to have a car following them, okay? That's simple math because we're going to tow the RV with the pickup. My wife's coming behind me in the car. 400 units, that's 600 cars. That's just simple arithmetic. You take their 50 to 75 employees. How many of them folks is going to carpool? There's another 50 or 75 cars. Plus you got all the people that's supposed to come hang out at the lazy river and the cabins and all this. You're talking about essentially doubling the traffic, if not tripling the traffic on Lily Orchard and Greenfield, which affects Helena, which affects me. Because straight as the crow flies, it's about a half or 3/4 of a mile from that property to my property. It's a great idea, and if you look at the property, it would be a great place for an RV park. If there was a bridge going from Highway 63 to it. There's not. You can't get there from here. You remember that saying? You can't get there from here. Y'all think about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
All right, Board, I think we heard a lot. I just wanted to just tap on a few pointers of what I heard from the public, make this pretty quick. One of the biggest things that I heard was about the roads. Again, I want to readdress this. There is an RV park that currently has about 45 units there now. They access Saracena, Greensfield Road, and continues down Greenfield Road to get to this RV park, which is the safest route for those towables or Class A's that are traveling. If you take and go beyond that point and come in the opposite way, anybody who drives any vehicle would know, don't go that way. You have to access that safely from Saracena to Greensfield to get to Riverside RV Park. And in no way am I against it. I appreciate the fact that they're there, you know, and to see them doing something as such. And it's a nice, beautiful park. I've actually went through there. But the Lily Orchard is just even more safer, especially when you consider Mr. Feller Williams sold sand to this county 30 years, and he made sure to tell, hey, reference that. We did not have one accident on that road with those 18-wheelers going back and forth, passing each other. They just not going down a single file line and single filing back. They're crossing each other all day long. So they haven't had no accidents like that. And if I'm not mistaken, from reports that I researched, there has been no RV accidents along that route getting down to the other RV parks. So I don't think that the safety of the road is that big a concern. Yeah, I do drive trucks, and to those who mentioned, yeah, I own a trucking company, and I got drivers that I'm responsible for their safety. I wouldn't even send them down a route with that truck and risk my liability. So at the same time, I wouldn't ask customers to come visit a park and risk their liability. I would never invest in that. I did my research way beforehand on this. Regarding, someone mentioned about the jobs just now. I've spoken with Ingalls. They have workers that come in, and they would probably send them that way to stay for temp workers, because they do utilize some of the RV campgrounds within Jackson County for certain contract workers. So that's something that we can add. The other thing is, someone mentioned about what are the tourists is going to do. Yeah, this is a very sought after area. When you just go north of there, you have Hurley. I visited Hurley. I actually spoke with Mark Compass in regards to how we can network, because I will have the ability to market Hurley because of the stores, the golf courses, which majority of these people are retired. They're not coming in there, you know, they're coming to want to do some leisure. So yeah, they have the beautiful golf courses up there. So I was finding the ways to even network and build an alliance with Hurley as well. And they seem pretty excited about that. Mind you, that this is a high-end park that we're talking about. Nothing on the low end at all. You know, there are requirements, and some questioned me about this before, but I'm like, wait a minute, I've been to parks where your RV can't be over a certain age or look a certain way. They don't allow it in there. Same thing we're going to enforce. As far as being peaceful, we have quiet hours that we're going to definitely enforce. Nothing, when that sun is down, it's quiet. We are going to enforce, and normally they don't have these problems at these type of resorts that we're talking about us building. They know the routine. They know, hey, keep quiet or else you're going to get put out. But we have a time that we're going to enforce quiet hours. So we won't let noise just be what they're talking about here. The other thing was, real quick, was the fact about the, excuse me, just a second here, and about the comment about the racial thing. I'm holding this up here now. This here says this picture speaks 1,000 words. I'm actually at the Jazz and Heritage Festival in New Orleans this year with one of my employees who's retired, great guy, took a picture. And all of a sudden, I think this picture speaks 1,000 words. Get to know me first. Ask who I am. Call me. If you went to great lengths to find my picture, my Facebook page is public. My company's public. Call me. The number's public. I have nothing to hide. So get to know who I am first, and I think that's where this whole thing went wrong at, is because it was led by someone just basically stereotyping this. And I'm like, hey, you know, I do regret that some of my neighbors I didn't get a chance to address about this early on before we had the first meeting. And we basically only did that because we wanted to just get the fence approved first, because anything over a certain amount of height has to be approved by the planning commission. They advised, just go ahead and put everything in there. So I kind of met this early on. And so I didn't get a chance to meet all my neighbors. And I have spoke since then to some of them since the first planning commission. And a lot of them that are not here, there are some, trust me, that are on board with this project. The other thing is traffic, again, evacuations I heard about flooding. If we are put into a position and we know that and we trust Jackson County Emergency Management, I know they're pretty good at this, being in a coastal area, but if we are alerted of a fact that we need to evacuate, we're in the best position to get people out of there. Get them out. They're not going to stay. We're not going to take that risk. We will literally have to make sure that everybody is out of there. So we have plans for evacuation planning. Traffic, we will control by reservation. We had that early in the planning commission when we met with them. Everybody thinking it's just going to be a ton of RVs going up and down these roads. No, we can design that by reservations on what time they come in and out of that park. Again, the other last thing is the numbers. Again, I told you this was just overkill. But and someone said that, I said no, that I wouldn't reduce numbers. Never said that. Let me just do a fact check on that. I'm willing to reduce the numbers to whatever satisfies this board, the county, to make it work. So in no way am I stern about saying I need this many sites. No, I never said that. So I just wanted to address that again. My neighbors, there are some beautiful neighbors there. And when it came down to this issue about community and whatever, the person who made this comment know who he is. I'm not speaking for everyone. But me as a person, yeah, I take offense to that. Get to know me first. I'm a great businessman. My wife is a great physician who will be bringing her services hopefully here to Jackson County, you know. So, and we've been great business owners. So we're decent people and we love community. So again, I ask this board to really consider everything that you heard to be in our best interest. So that's all I have to say. It's my turn. Anything else to say?
Hey, Mr. Witherspoon, let me ask you something. Have you had a wetlands study done on that property yet?
Yes, I did. I found out it was okay for us. The wetlands go pre-disturbed property when I bought it. So Mr. Feller, I guess, already had went through those channels, but I did also get with Wildlife Fisheries, spoke to their captain. He came out, Mr. Witherspoon, you're fine on any wildlife. So I did all the homework as far as wetlands, and I looked at the zoning on your map, and it was fine. It was actually zoned for this RV park. You know, we bought it under the advertisement of that. So, and considering the other RV park is more closer to the Escatamba River than we definitely are, you know, and so we're not.
So there's no wetlands on that property?
What they got it zoned for, not saying it's not wetlands, but they've zoned it to be used. So.
No, I mean from the U.S. Corps of Engineers, the Army Corps of Engineers. Have you got a wetland study from the Army Corps of Engineers?
I haven't got one from the Army Corps of Engineers, but I did take in consideration what your compliance team did put into the map zoning as far as wetlands. On your wetlands map online, it was deemed okay. So
that's the flood. Isn't that the flood elevations, Marcus?
Yeah, it's not in the flood.
Yeah.
It's not.
So, yeah, I think I'd get a wetland study done first because that's. I know there's wetlands out there, and I don't think you would be able to do half of that. I mean, I'm just telling you what I know. I'm a builder, developer by trade, so I can just tell you I don't think you'd be able to do half of that, knowing what I know out there as far as wetlands restrictions. Yeah.
Well, like I said, we did look at wetlands and consider that even the same amount of wetlands is at the same other RV park, somehow the way they built it. But like I say, they also built on wetlands too. I met with their owners.
Yeah, but there's mitigation processes you can go through to get those wetlands mitigated.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't mind
you definitely gonna have
entertaining that just to look at it because I want to make sure everything is in compliance.
Yeah,
you know, so compliance is number one. Safety is also the other. So Yeah, no dismissing that fact. We will look into that. But, oh yeah, I forgot. We mentioned something about fire. At the planning commission, I think it was the fire chief of, was it Moss Point, Jackson County? He actually came and said they're actually building a new fire station right there, so they wouldn't have a problem with getting out there in immediate response time. I think they forgot that, but the fire chief himself did get up and speak that they are already in the process of making a fire station right there close to this property. So I think that's okay as far as the fire thing goes. So, but anything else? All right, board, thanks for hearing us and take your best consideration. Mr. Barsich, I can't, but sorry, I'll look into that as far as that wetland things go. Okay, well, thanks.
Okay, I think we're done. We're ready for the board's decision.
Okay. Any more comments? Mr. and Ms. Witherspoon, I appreciate y'all's interest in Jackson County. We'd love to have y'all come live here. But that being said, I agree with the Planning Commission's findings on this, and I'm gonna make a motion that we uphold the Planning Commission on SPEC 04/2023-00062 and deny the application. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion, Mr. Cumbus, and a second, Mr. Bosarge. Any comments, questions? I've got a question mostly for planning. Kind of a cart and horse. I think most special exceptions we see are pretty simple, yes or no, here goes a sign. There's an RV on a property while a house is being built, something like that.
Yes, sir.
We've heard so many issues here. Is there a requirement that utilities, water, sewer, drainage, electricity, roads, is there a requirement that all of these things be addressed as part of a request for a special exception? Because
sir.
they're the reasons, I think, that it's being denied. It's just, we don't have the capability, the capacity.
No, they're here.
And also, the financial feasibility, how, is it funded? Is it doable financially? It puts a big burden on several governments, quasi-governments, as far as utilities go.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it kind of a horse before the cart?
No, sir, this is step one. He's just asking for a use permit, basically, to utilize this property as an RV resort. Now, he has to go through the permitting and all after the fact. So that's when we make sure that he has all the infrastructure in place. And if he's not able to do that, the RV park wouldn't happen. But this is step one.
Well, as a part of step two, if a utility authority says, I can't do that, what happens to the project?
Then he's not able to carry forward with the project.
Okay. Okay, so you think?
Yes, sir. This is how it normally works. This is step one. They come and they ask to be able to utilize the property for this use through special exception, and then they have to go through the permitting process after the fact. In that case, they don't have to spend all the money to do all the utilities things that they have to do. They can do all that after the fact.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's do a roll call. Mr. Cumbus, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
I will vote aye. Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Bosarge?
Aye.
Okay. Good luck to y'all.
That's it.
And of course, you can appeal this to Circuit Court?
Circuit Court, yes, sir.
Yep. Thank all y'all for coming out.
Thank y'all.
Seems Seems like a real nice guy.
Yeah, well, if it's wetlands, you can't.
He owns that property. Let's get with him to develop.
There's a lot of wetlands out there.
Yeah, there.
I think they need to have more well-defined what they're putting out there, so everybody understands what it is.
He never,
What he went right here.
he never got
We
a
really
wetland.
don't know what they're putting in. It may force us to have to approve that road.
Violated by
And then we're spending that.
We're trying to do, we're gonna do a lot of work for ages.
Like right now, you finish
Oh, yes, you do. Yep, and that happens all the time. People buy property in an area that needs improvement.
Chief Corps of Engineers.
That's fixing it in the what to work with on that.
And there's,
There's not just a model. You're. Like a bowl. Yeah. And it's like they developed everything out of that bowl.
one line. Shotgun approach, just everywhere.
To travel. We're on page 4 of 5. Fixing to move to Mr. Fulton. Okay. Thank everyone for their patience there. We'll now go back to item number 8 on the agenda. We finished the board attorney. We'll go to Mr. Fulton with travel.
The item I have is travel, both required and discretionary.
So moved. Motion by Mr. Cumbus, seconded by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Finance. Ms. Wells.
Good morning. The first item I have is the order approving the claims docket.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bossarge. Was that Mr. Ross that seconded? Mr. Morris seconded, I'm sorry. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, the second item I have is the resolution authorizing the interfund loans for fiscal year September 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cumbus. I will second it. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, and the last item I have is the resolution authorizing the operating transfers for fiscal year September 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ross,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Cumbus. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to item 10, state and federal delegations.
On these for sake of time. On state delegation issues, you may have noticed that we had 2 applications for Go Mesa funds, grant applications for state Go Mesa funds. The 2 projects were the mouth of Graveline Bayou for a study on that location to see what we may need to do there to shore that up and keep us from having to dredge there, at least once a year. Second project was the bulkhead at Signet for the improvements there to aid them in shoring that wharf up and allow them to do additional work there at that location. Also on state delegation issues, we are still in the process of submitting additional information for the GCRF grant project for the Van Cleve Medical Clinic. We've been working back and forth with Singing River Hospital System and trying to gather additional information on that. May have a resolution at our next meeting regarding the match portion of that project. So stay tuned for more information on that. On the federal delegation side, I've been working with Manning to schedule meetings with congressional staff as they come to our area during the August recess period. We met with them last year and hope to meet with them again this year. We have several topics to discuss with them. And then also, we're still awaiting markups on the congressional directed spending bills in hopes that we will seek additional funding for airport project. The North Apron expansion is one of the projects that we've been lobbying for, and so we're hoping to see that in one of the markups. So keeping an eye on that. But that's all I had.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's go to item number 11, supervisor items. Mr. Cumbest.
I didn't have any.
Mr. Morris has none. I have none. Mr. Ross has none. Mr. Beauchard has a resolution.
I have a resolution that I'm making a motion on to spreading Grace Parenteau's resignation as a member of the Gut Park Estate St. Andrews Fire District Board along the minutes. She, their family got relocated, so she had to resign her position, and we're looking for somebody else to put on there.
I'll second.
Okay, so Mr. Beauchard makes that motion, and Mr. Cumbest seconded it. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We'll go to item number 12. We need a motion to determine if we need to have a closed session.
So moved.
No, we need to go into closed session to determine if we need an executive session. So Mr. Morris made the motion. I will second it. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We are in closed session.